The 2024 Porsche Cayenne E-Hybrid. Porsche vehicles might be quick, but they're not sufficiently fast to surpass the fast beginning of discharge guidelines. That is the reason it re-examined each of the three powertrains in the 2024 Porsche Cayenne to run in better shape. In any case, the exhibition brand needed to settle on a few hard decisions on how and where its blockbuster would be sold. This update to the third-gen Cayenne addresses the moderate-size SUV's most critical update since the Cayenne nameplate was presented in 2002. The progressions guarantee it will in any case be new when sold close by the fourth era that sends off with the full battery electric Cayenne in 2026. The electric Porsche Macan shows up first in 2024. Up to that point, Porsche brought back another cycle of the twin Super 4.0-liter V8 in the Cayenne S, and it's picking to renounce deals of the fearsome 650 horsepower Super GT in India, most Asian nations, and its home mainland of Europe. Mark this as the start of the finish of the V8. It's the 2024 Cayenne E-Hybrid plug-in hybrid that may provide the clearest indicator of where Porsche is going and how it's going to get there. For 2024, Porsche trades in a 25.9 kWh battery pack instead of the previous 17.9 kWh unit on the freight floor. It will extend the electric reach past the 15 miles of its predecessor, yet Porsche couldn't confirm by how much at press time. Rather than sensational changes, the Porsche Cayenne E-Hybrid continues to take incremental steps since it was first launched in 2011. It currently has an 11 kW installed charger that brings down the charge season of the bigger battery to 2.5 hours. The active model had a 7.2 kW charger and a charge season of around 3 hours. The E-Hybrid marries an updated 3.0-liter Turbo 6 with a new but similarly sized electric motor producing 174 horsepower and 339 pounds-to-foot of torque compared to 134 horsepower and 295 pounds-to-foot in the predecessor. As a whole, output increases from 455 horsepower to 463 horsepower, but torque drops from 516 pounds-to-foot to 479 pounds-to-foot. The more powerful motor hits harder and quicker, Porsche spokesperson Calvin Kim explained. This results in a 0 to 60 miles per hour time that improves by a tick, from 4.7 to 4.6 seconds, by Porsche's measures. It sheds its 5,348-pound curb weight seemingly without effort, yet from a stop it doesn't have the same front lift as the Cayenne S that hits 60 miles per hour in 4.4 seconds with the Sport Plus pack. There are no known plans for the return of the 670 horsepower Turbo S E-Hybrid. Why buy the E-Hybrid? On its own, the Sport or Sport Plus modes optimize the power delivery from both sources to give that Porsche bite. In the Sport exhaust system opens up the V6 snarl when called upon, but otherwise the E-Hybrid prowls around in quiet with marginal road and wind nosy. The system defaults to electric power, yet Porsche mutes this electric prominence, mostly to good effect. Porsche digitized the cockpit to mimic the electric Porsche Taycan by swapping out the analog dials and replacing them with a 12.6-inch digital cluster offering up to 7 views. They're crystal clear and loaded with navigation and performance data, but can't quite match the user-friendliness of an Audi or the breadth and depth of the latest Mercedes interface. Beside it, a 12.3-inch touchscreen broadens the dash, which is flanked at the end by vertical vents like wingtips. The front passenger could play with an optional 10.9-inch touchscreen block from the driver's view. With or without the option, that dash space is covered by the same black cover that might be better covered with some of Porsche's finer materials. Grab handles still stud the doors and flank the center console, which has a new haptic climate control panel and less clutter than its predecessor. The climate panel could use a bit more refinement to match the rest of the interior. Push the heated seat button, for example, and the whole panel syncs momentarily with it. All drive modes move to the steering wheel dial, and suspension and exhaust settings migrate to the center touchscreen. The gear selector moves up to the dash to the right of the steering wheel, and the start button sits left of the wheel. It's neater, cleaner, and more reliant on digitization, but the analog Sport chrono clock remains an option. There's no great announcement in any of the many displays that you're driving a plug-in hybrid, yet the vital info can be found in due time. A battery charge display can be accessed in one of the clustered displays, and the estimated mileage appears in green in the combined Talk/Speedo display. It's all very understated, muted almost. An EV power display appears at the top of the tachometer in the high noon position. A blue bar cascades down when EV power is being used. What's with the Cayenne's regenerative braking system? Another bar in green cascades down to the left. That's the regenerative brake dial. There's no regen happening when you lift off the accelerator, only when the brake is pressed. it operates in the background, and feels like a missed opportunity still, same as in the last gen of Regan. The lone Regan setting, which mixes in some of it, but not much, results in a non-linear brake feel. The pedal can be a touch soft at first and it firms up right quick when the mechanical brake takes hold. The handoff is noticeable though not jarring, and Kim says the current application is an adaptation of the Regan system in the Taycan. An 8-speed automatic transmission with either power source. The curious thing about Porsche's plug-in hybrid system is the presence of the 8-speed automatic transmission, and how smooth it balances the different power demands. In EV mode, it'll show the transmission gear in the tachometer even though there are no revs displayed. At 45 miles per hour or so, and with the transmission in 7th gear, I tapped the throttle and the engine came on, carrying over in 7th gear under blended power. In the same scenario, wanting to pass someone, I hit the throttle and the transmission downshifted to 4th gear as the engine took over. EV mode never fully locks out the engine. Above those speeds, in most circumstances, the engine works in concert with the e-machine motor. The engine connects to the motor, then goes through the transmission and its torque converter before sending power through the center differential and lastly the rear differential. And the quite large battery pack is under the rear cargo floor, just behind the back seats. You can play with the various hybrid and drive modes with the steering wheel dial, but the car responds to your inputs on its own based on the programming of the electronic control unit. It's all very natural and predictable, and it preserves a small amount of battery power even when the gauges say it's depleted. But gaming the system can be fun. E-Hole brought the battery charge from empty to 10% on downhill twists through a canyon. I lost those gains back uphill in hybrid auto mode. But sport mode along the coast, with stops every few miles or so, generated a lot of power to 25% or 10 miles, with the external temp at a sweet spot in the 70s and the climate control off. It's not safe to extrapolate to a full charge of 40 miles, as road conditions and driving habits dictate the range estimate. The least efficient mode is e-charge that turns the engine into both a propulsion source and a generator. It powers the battery pack, so it's best used to replenish the battery while cruising on the highway when the engine is operating in its most efficient state. I gained 10 electric-only miles in hard driving over about a 35-mile leg in e-charge. Then, when off the highway, you can use electric propulsion over those last few miles before your destination. It drags on performance, of course, but being smart with power never goes out of style. Sport and Sport Plus modes tap both power sources for the optimal performance, and automatically activate the Sport exhaust. The Turbo V6 lacks the more resonant thrum of the Cayenne S V8, but it does much more than purr. As in real estate and gerrymandering, location matters. And assuming the larger battery and more potent motor lead to enough range to handle many commutes there and elsewhere in the country, the Cayenne E-Hybrid states its case without sacrificing Porsche power.